So it's still okay. It's now loaded. Okay.
Yeah.
That's Mark. Thanks. So welcome everyone to the Project Management Masterclass. Glad to have you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I hope you stay until the end, because I'm going to give like a major prize, which is, I think you have received the email. It's about the program, which I'm going to launch by weekend next week. So please stay there. And also, I'm going to give everyone something at the end. So I hope you stay until the end and you will get that gift. Plus, I'll be giving some bonuses as well, special bonuses. And a lot of your questions, I've already received them. So we will have them answered as we go through the presentation. So I have distributed the questions on different parts of the presentation. So welcome to the Project Management Masterclass. So we'll have like the introduction, the rationale of a project, the process in project management, tools, and the reasons why a project can fail, how to be a project manager, because someone from the participants have asked this question. And of course, the master key to success in life. And end of the presentation, I will also mention about particular offer, which I've already mentioned via email. And of course, the giving of the gift at the end. So I hope you can like let me know from the chat your some of the people have already answered, but if you can just enter in the chat like your industry and the number of months or years in project management, because there are also other participants. Okay, 11 months. And like, what kind of role are you really managing projects like the lead, or are you supporting the lead? Are you the sponsor, or what kind of project is that? Okay, speech and language. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Part of the some of the projects that I've been involved also in terms of auditing are on the NGO side, like education part, water, sanitation, hygiene, construction projects, cash transfer programs.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. At least we have like because I've received something like someone been doing construction projects. Okay. Yeah, Mark, I think you're very senior already. Entrepreneur and property developer. That's quite a responsibility. Yeah. Okay. But thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So just to give you a quick background of who I am, so that at least we get to know each other. I work as a student assistant during my college years so that I can have some money support my expenses because my tuition happens to be very high. And I didn't buy books to save money so that I can have money in terms of if there are other school expenditures. I don't have to ask money from my parents because we're five in the family, and that's why I really need to help them in such a way that I'm not asking more money from them except for my tuition. I will stay up late in the library just to until 10 p.m. just for me to be in the computer laboratory or in the library. During the time, there's not much about laptops and internet in the residential areas. Like today, it's everywhere. But before, it's more of like people are using desktops. So I would also stay in the library, just keep on writing down notes so that I'll save again money instead of buying books. Then I can just go to the library and just use the books there. So during that time, there was no Google and everything. So it's just so manual. I kept on studying to develop myself. I studied my background is in IT. So I studied different kinds of areas in IT and I took certifications on those areas. So I really studied real hard. Like I would read lots of books for me to get those certifications because um, our clients would trust you more if you are certified because I happen to work as an engineer. So I would troubleshoot systems and work on different servers. And the servers were taller than me. And I took examinations in this, um, including project management, audit, and consulting. And I thought that I passed them. So it's actually more than passing the certification, but it's knowing the standards and the best practices and sharing this and teaching this to other people and to the people that I mentored, especially the junior professionals and even the senior professionals. So right now, I'm doing coaching and also consulting. And I work with different organizations and clients who have made quantum leaps in their projects or personal transformation. So I help them on their career development, even in some of their problems that they have in their personal lives. Because personal lives and part of the career, they somehow would affect each other. So these are some of the organizations that I worked with, and it was really, I would say, I've been very fortunate because I've worked with a lot of great people from great organizations who really have been very respectful of people and they have really supported the development of their employees, as well as there's sort of camaraderie inside and also with the client. And it's really good because being able to work with them, I was able to see the different kinds of standards, best practices, and how they work. So it's not something that we learn from books or even from school. It's through years of being with them. I was able to mingle with great people across cultures, and I got the chance to work with great people with great ethics, and they're very, very professional. So I had a chance to be able to travel and um, see them, and most especially being able to appreciate the culture. Like some people would work in a different manner, different kinds of preferences in terms of work habits, in terms of interaction, the communication styles. These are all uh, these things really factor in whenever we do project management. So they're really great people, and um, I've been fortunate to be able to know them. I get to do what I love doing, which is training right now, coaching, and then consulting. And I was able to like participate in some of the talks and conferences, participated by different leaders, and got a chance to work with wonderful people, and I got great um, great results with them, working with them. So like with Mark and with Ali, with Ronald, it's really a great working opportunities because we work with different countries and it's about global implementation. Um, then being able to work with junior professionals, junior project managers, and mentor them in terms of how to manage projects. And last year and also this year, I was invited to be a judge of US and Wharton University's Reimagine Education Award, sort of like an Oscar kind of awarding in terms of education. And I've been featured in some of the publications and media outlets as well. So as I would say I'm very glad I was able to work with different consultants and presented to them some of the trainings as well in project management and leadership trainings as well as transformation and also with other professionals, consultants and career professionals, as well as leaders. So get the chance to work with wonderful leaders, both here locally and with Africa, with Northern America and UK, London. So they have different kinds of responsibilities, different kinds of roles, and different kinds of communication preferences. The way they interact with people will be different. The kind of projects are different. The customers are different. The vendors are different. The rules and regulations are different. Like we would implement something on a particular country and it's acceptable. But when it comes to another country, it's not even admitted. Like we were implementing an application for a particular country, and like of course, I UK or maybe Philippines, Thailand, other countries, Ecuador, Kenya, Africa, Pakistan, and they're okay. But when it comes to other countries, I wouldn't mention the countries, but they are regulated. Like they do not allow Facebook there. They do not allow Skype, I think even Skype, and some other applications. They're all prohibited. So in terms of communication, there will be some changes and adjustments. Just to give you an insight of what a project is. So project is a sequence of unique undertaking or activities that have one goal and has a specific beginning and end date. So it's a temporary endeavor consisting of sequence of activities to bring a unique product, a service, or a value to the organization. And it's constrained by cost, scope, and resources and quality. It means that there's a specific criteria for something to be a project. So in the beginning, we would come up with an idea. And then when we think that it's feasible, then we're going to adapt it and implement it as a project. So we conceptualize that. Then after that, we identify that should be a start date and an end date because it's not something that runs forever. And then it's a series of activities or tasks that we need to do from start to end so that we can come up with a particular product or a service which has unique value. So it's something that has to be unique. So it's not like happens every day. For example, we're producing a report every day. It's not a project because it's something that happens every day. So that's the essence of a project. So, for example, I'd like to give a different kind of perspective in terms of projects and the way we think about projects. Because normally, as project managers or as a project leader, probably we normally think of a project as something that we need to accomplish because there's a certain goal behind the project. There's a set of objectives and a specific goal. I'd like to change the perspective in such that a project is something that's beyond goal. There's a goal, but beyond that, there are other reasons why we're coming up with a project, and that will be the rationale of the project. It's the ultimate outcome or the progressive benefits of a project. So it comes from an idea. You think of it, okay, let's do this project. I think we're going to give value. Okay? It's going to give value to the refugees here. So what do they need? If they're becoming from a war, like from Syria or from Israel, okay? So if they will be coming from there, they need to transfer to another country, then they will be called like refugee. And before they get inside the country or later on when they get to the country, we need to establish some settlement areas. And what do we come up with? I need house for them. So that's the reason why we come up with a house, with a housing project or a community. Okay. So when we think about construction of a church, construction of a school, house. So we think about the families who will live in the house, the families who will be served by the church, okay, the children who will study in the school. Because later on, families and the children, especially the children, they will become leaders later on. And that's the reason why when we do construction projects, when we construct houses, when we construct churches and schools, we keep in mind that we're doing this for the children, we're doing this for the families, we're doing this for the community. And when we think that way, our work becomes meaningful. So it's not a heavy burden for us to execute the task because we're thinking differently. And again, there's a progressive benefits later on. It's not just with a defined goal within the project, but what happens after 5 years, after 10 years. Especially for the refugees, they're building their lives. We're not just giving them houses. No, we're giving them shelters. We're giving them hope. We're giving them the chance to recuperate the wounds from the war, from war. So we have electronics, we have telco projects, and we think of connecting people, connecting countries, sharing of knowledge. When it's about building bridges, it's about exchanging goods, it's about commerce, it's about trade, it's about traveling, being able to go from one place to the other. When we think about system, it's about serving the community in a particular area, whatever that will be, maybe computerization of something, maybe a research and discovery of a vaccine. So these have compounding effect. As a ripple effect, the project that we're currently having right now is going to accomplish a particular goal for that specific project, but it has a ripple effect, and it is progressive, like the benefits run in the number of years to come. Okay. Now, the reason why it is important to know that the rationality of the project rationale is because there will come a time that we need to discuss is the purpose of the project to major stakeholders, we need to have a buy. So when we try to because one of the questions was about funding. So based on the experience that I had, it's a lot easier to get the buy-in and a lot easier to really talk about funding and support when we discuss the project in a way that's relatable to the audience in front of us, especially the sponsors or the people who will fund the project. And a lot of times, these people have specific concerns and they love to help. Like if they're going to learn the project is about later on after 5 years, it will really help people in such a way that it will make a difference in the lives of other people. They are ready to support the project. And I've seen that happen again and again. It's a lot easier for them to release funds because they know it's going to go somewhere. Okay. So I've gathered a lot of questions from all attendees, and like it's more than 20. What I'm going to do is like I distributed them across the presentation so that at least we get the time being as well spent and more interesting with the participants. Okay. So first is I can produce the brand and sell it very easily, but how can I overcome the hidden expense which directly hit my counter sale? I'm not really sure about the hidden expense. If person who asked this question is here, would you be able to like say in the chat or maybe tell to us what the question is really about? Because hidden expense, is it hidden from the customer? Okay, that's one thing. So there are different ways to really work on the budget because before we plot on the during planning, okay, and the budget is during the initiation, and then we work on the budget. We can add a few like 10% or 20% on the budget. Like it will serve as a shield, okay, for contingency. We can do it that way so that if there are some expenses like something that we cannot avoid, we can already cover those with our one. It's more of act way. The second is if there are expenses that are legit, meaning because of maybe if sudden inflation rate has increased or changed, um, there are some changes coming from the customer, and then we need to make some changes. These are legit changes, and they can be addressed through a change request management procedure, and it goes there. Of course, there are certain forms that need to be filled up, approval needs to happen, impact analysis, all of these things that happen, and it can be done. Okay, but I really don't know what. Okay. It's more of like a branding marketing part already. What is your biggest challenge? I faced a lot of pressure during the project, but the biggest challenge to keep and maintain relationship with the customers. Okay. Um, Again, if we see the project as something that can contribute to the well-being of the customers, it's a lot easier for us to relate to the customer, not as customers, but people, uh, human beings that we want to take care of. Okay? It goes beyond the transaction. It goes beyond the business way of doing things. But considering them as human beings that we need to relate to in a day-to-day basis, and how do we relate with our friends? Um, there's a certain level of respect, professionalism. At the same time, hearing them, hearing them if they have anything to say regarding the project. Secondly, professional relationships for the customers. Um, Part of them being part of the project is to provide them with information. So we make constant it's periodic in terms of meetings or maybe email communication or reports. Okay. And in doing so, we gain their trust, and that results to a professional and better working relationship. Eventually, your customer rating, when you do the survey, you will get a very high score. We do these things, especially when we treat them with respect. We listen. Okay, when a customer really approaches us and asks for a request, we just say we acknowledge your request. What is it? Okay, I'll take a look at this. And I promise you that I'll take a look at this and then see if we can accommodate this because it needs to go to a certain change management process. Something that we need to communicate so that we are aware we as providers of services or products are making um, diligent efforts to conduct our work because it's beneficial for them and for us. But there's a mutual benefit, mutual respect. What do you want to know about project management? You want to know how we can minimize the initial and fixed expense during the project. When we already have expenses planned way ahead, like these are the expenses in the different expense items. Most often than not, they will be expended in such a way that they had been planned. Now, if you want to, we, we have to be very cautious of having the intention of minimizing expenses because it can happen that we will be getting a product that is of inferior quality. If that happens, the major deliverables, will suffer because we have already agreed on the contract. We will deliver these specifications. We will deliver this product with this kind of quality. We can come up with that quality using these particular materials, using this equipment, using these processes, systems, all of these things, which translate into items that we need to buy, we need to procure. So we have to be cautious in minimizing. Now, if the reason why we want to minimize the expenses is for us to control the budget, there are different ways to do that. Okay. If we have already agreed on a particular item to be delivered by a particular vendor or supplier, it's fine. But if we have seen someone with a better, perhaps a better quality or even same quality but a much lower price, we can perhaps move to that supplier or vendor. So there are different ways to handle this. But I guess we really need to be cautious about intention. What's the biggest challenge in project management? I don't know what the meaning of alignment here is, but if it's about alignment of plan against the actual, okay, how do we approach that? It's always constantly tracking your progress against the plan. It's not just the activities, but also the milestones and deliverables. Plus, this is something that a lot of project managers forget. It's looking also at the objectives, regularly checking on the objectives and the key success criteria, the KRAs, looking at the success criteria. And if you do that, if you make it a habit, the alignment gets solved. It's a lot easier to do that. Now, if you're currently in a position wherein your plan, your actual are very much different in terms of the budget against expenditures and activities, you need to go back to the plan and revise the plan. But do not revise the plan and execute it without any approval. So when you have legit reason, whether well, actually, even if you have hard, if you have if you've been having a lot of issues already, that's why your project is really very red already, very problematic. You really need to sit with the customer, with the sponsor. And this is what's happening. And um, this is I see. And can we adjust the plan such that we can work on this and this and this? So the ideal scenario would be that the actual and the expenditure should be the same. And we can only do that if we revise the plan. And it can only be revised when we have the approval of the customer and the sponsor. And it can happen if we have good relationships with them. A lot of times, even if the project is really bad already, if you have good relationships with them, it's like magic. It can work wonders. But if the problem really is so deep already, we really need to inspect what points, what tasks can we fast track? Do we need to load other professionals, other specialists to fast track the project? Do we need to add more resources? Because sometimes when we add resources, it can be more detrimental because it can create chaos. So we need to really analyze how we how we manage it, but it can be done. We can restructure the team, identify the roles and responsibilities, skill the talents of the members, put lead roles. So there are a lot of things, but it can be done. It may take a while, it can be done. What is your biggest challenge in project management, procurement, logistics, deliverables? Okay. The person who answered this question was someone who was in construction. And I audited the construction project before. So one of the things that we really look at is on the basic materials. And of course, in terms of selecting suppliers, the vendors, the segregation of duties should be present. Okay? This is part of the best practices in procurement, which is segregation of duties is very important, especially in terms of approvals, in terms of selection, awarding, uh, in terms of scheduling of payments, release of payments, and inspection of the deliverables of the structures. So because a construction normally, some of the projects in construction, they are being paid installment. It depends on what kind of, for example, if it's a two-story structure, the second or the third payment or the first payment will be released after the construction of the first floor or the second floor or some of the areas. And the person should be there on site to really inspect these structures are already completed before the payment is released. Like I reviewed a construction project, and person who released the payment was the one also who's inspecting the construction, the structure. So there's already like we need to have a level of assurance that fraud and corruption is not in place, so that we can be sure of the value of money being spent. Every dollar spent is already giving more than $1. Okay, especially if it's for the beneficiaries like the refugees, that's very important. We really need to provide these kinds of reports to the people who are giving the funds, the sponsors, because normally the sponsors of these things, okay, there could be some big organizations who can be supporting this. A lot of rich people, the royal families, something like that. So they normally provide this funding. So they expect the money spent is wisely spent. What's your biggest challenge in project management? Staff and the funding. Okay, I already told earlier about the funding. So we can tackle the funding in such a way that when we are asking funds from them, we go beyond the current objective. It's the progressive benefits. What happens in 5 years, in 10 years? We have given them the immediate relief for now, but because of that, their lives been enriched. We were able to help rebuild their lives so that they will be productive citizens later on, not just within their families, but also with other communities. And eventually, the children will also be great leaders because they have seen, especially in terms of famine and war, they have seen the struggles. I've known some of the people who are refugees and they're really great leaders already. They're really accomplished because they've seen um, pains. They've been wounded. So they're wounded healers. That's for one. And second, in terms of funding, a there are a lot of grants out there, especially in the US. Like there's so so many philanthropies and a lot of grants are available in the US. We can just use our best friend Google and see the available grants. And the grants are in different forms. With Asia, it's a bit limited. Like in Asia, mostly it's on the climate change, trend, gender related, education, but they're on the extreme side. But in the US, they're more giving, they're more charitable, generous. It, they would cover businesses, entrepreneurs, education, of course, different kinds of advocacies. But they're very generous. Even the SMEs, even small entrepreneurs, for women, for men, they're very generous. There are a lot of grants in the US. For the staff, I don't know what is the challenge in the staff. Would you be able to like share maybe in the chat, or if you can share what what is it that you'd like to cover about the staff, and I can give something. Maybe you can share in the chat. Okay. So if it's about getting a staff, there are freelancers nowadays, and we can get from different um um lot of sources. They can be hired in, you know, in a week or in 1 month or in 6 months, and we can staff in fraction of a time. Like we can hire them in 20% FTE. That means we can just get them in just maybe 2 hours in a day, or maybe 2 hours 3 times a day. So we can do that. And what you want to know about project management systems? Okay, there are different systems. Like we can use Microsoft Project for that one. I thought before that Microsoft Project was difficult to use, but we can just use Microsoft Project in such a way like it's Excel. Like we just enter the task and we enter the start date and the end date and the sequence, and then it automatically gives us Gantt chart, like graphical representation of what a project looks like. Schedule. So there are different systems there's also Trello. I haven't used Trello. There's also Jira, a system that it's a bit easy to use. Like it's easy to use. YouTube can be presented there. So there are different systems. But you can manage a project even without systems. Like even a Gantt chart will do. Even a piece of paper you can, just in case. Okay. So with projects, there are lives behind every project. And the project team, the sponsor, the stakeholders, beneficiaries, customers, we go beyond them, present of the project. We go beyond the duration of the project, after the project, and even after 2 to 3 years to 5 years, their lives will be, we will give impact also to other people. Very progressive benefits, okay? Rich lives, can cure, okay? If we're talking about vaccines or medicine for some diseases that are unknown, okay? Rebuilding lives, development of future leaders for children, and building relationships. When we help the families of the children, we are healing children. When a lot of children are healed emotionally and physically, just imagine a better future 10 to 20 years from now. It will be a lot better place. In short, projects came from an idea, development, solution, or improvement. There are reasons behind a project, and we think of these reasons. Then eventually, we can help get the support from different people, especially the sponsors, the customers, the stakeholders, if we communicate purpose. Okay? Get the support that we need. So what is project management? It's the use of appropriate methodology, tools, and skills to projects in order to accomplish the project objectives against the constraints, time, and budget. It's a discipline. It's managing a project with reference to a particular tool, the best practices, that we can really accomplish the goals. We can be sure that we are accomplishing the objectives because we need to really complete the project on time and within the budget, but with a quality outcome. So it's not enough that we finish on time. We have to make sure that the deliverable is usable. So how many of you right now have been given a task with a deadline? Would you be able to share in the chat? Or how many of you been given a budget to work at currently? Or feel free to share in the chat. As a marketer, my tasks always have a deadline. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course. And it's good to have a deadline. Otherwise, we're not achieving like. Thank you for sharing, John. Just to give a brief overview of the process group. Okay? These are the initiation, the planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing. So in the initiation stage, okay, it's good. Mark, set your own. And yeah, there's a challenge when we set our own. Like discipline to really accomplish what we have set. It's a double challenge, really, but it's also liberating at the same time. Thank you for sharing. So the first part is initiation. This is the time wherein we conceptualize the idea, we check on the objectives, the goals, high-level timeline of up until when the project would be. Of course, the creation of the charter, and the project charter is the piece of document that authorizes the project manager that the project manager is the one who's going to lead this project. So that's the initiation phase. And of course, the kickoff happens. So kickoff doesn't happen just in a snap. So there's a certain planning in maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We need to have 2 weeks for the planning because we need to come up with the people who would need to attend, the different stakeholders, possible risks, the involvement of the people in the project. Because the reason why we have a kickoff is to really gather all the important individuals in the project. That's the main reason for the kickoff of the project, to let everyone knows that this project is going to happen, and that we will be needing their help. So the most important thing that they would be looking at during the kickoff would be the high level schedule. They would like to know at what point in time are they needed. And another important thing for the initiation is to really get their support. And it's important that the customer and sponsor will be there, because the sponsor needs to really see how things will go. And so there will be sort of accountability on their end that, okay, this is how the project will go. What support do you need from me? And that's the time where you're going to say, I need the support. Also, like that, the escalating point. You'll be the escalating point for project issues, and that the sponsor needs to resolve that. So it's one of the things that we discussed during kickoff. And in kickoff, it happens normally in just 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So the presentation just very brief, and there will be a lot of questions. And it's okay. And within 24 hours, release the minutes. Important. Let the communication gathered there, it's still fresh. The second is planning. Planning is then triggered after the kickoff, and this is where you gather all the team and you plan on the technical specification, the plan, the step by step and sequence, duration, exact resources will be there. Creation of the different plans. There's a subsidiary plans, quality plan, resource plan, communication plan, risk management plan. All of these things will be done during the planning stage. And eventually, whatever has been planned will be executed, and this goes to the execution stage. We make sure that whatever has been planned will be executed. Then we eventually monitor and control, making sure that what was planned is actually being done. Okay? What do we do when there are changes? Okay? What processes do we need to trigger? What tools do we need to use to monitor the project? These are all being done during monitoring and controlling. And eventually, when everything has been finished, we close the projects. During the closure of the projects, this is the time wherein we check all the requirements, all the deliverables, all the milestones have been completed and performed. The task had been performed. All the objectives, goals have been achieved. The teams, the project team, they gathered together to discuss the lessons learned, what worked, what didn't work, and what can be improved. And all of these are stored in a knowledge database so that when new projects come in and it's a similar project with yours, then they can just look it up from the knowledge base and say, okay, I think I'm going to use this project. I'm going to use the plan of this project. Okay, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can just reuse whatever has been done in the project. And that's part of the best practices, not to reinvent the wheel, but to use whatever existing resources already there. Okay. Of course, we close the financials, any billings, anything that we need to pay, anything that we need to collect. Of course, even the resources, the human resources, the project team, we need to offboard them so that they will be available with other projects. We essentially close the entire document, the entire project. Project goals and objectives are formed in a smart way, should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. And the project manager formulates this through discussion with the sponsor and the project owner. It has to be agreed with them. So this is very important. I've seen a lot of project goals like scope creep. It goes beyond the scope because the objectives are not clear. For example, there was this project wherein they have already had communication with the customer, and the customer said, yeah, we'll be needing 5 general reports. But actually, when they're already in the middle of the project, what they found out is that after, beyond one general report, there are subsidiary reports, which were about 10 to 20 reports. So it's not just 5. So they really had a hard time. Okay, so it's important to really identify. Granularity is very important, making it very specific. In planning, we need to consult the team and subject matter expert because they really know the particular task, what's the duration, and specific details. If they need tools, if they need licenses, if they need equipment, what kind of equipment, what kind of materials, they really vary. So we really need to talk to them because they're the ones who really know. Okay. Unless of course you're the technical project manager who reads technical. Still, there is some differentiating factors to be particular in the particular scenario. Okay, so when it comes to construction, perhaps the soil it could be different. It could be the different kinds of materials in terms of weather, in terms of systems. They're different integration, and only the specialists really know these things. But as project managers, we're there to really guide, lead, but we really get information from them because they're the ones who are really doing the work. And it's going to be hard for them to do the work if you've been given an allocated time that's not enough for them, or kinds of materials and equipment that they cannot work on. And sadly, they had to produce whatever was given to them. So another tool that we can use is work breakdown structure. It's like it's like a diagram, and it goes top to bottom. So for example, the first level is definition of high level definition. This is the project. And this is the first level. And then the second level is this one. And then the third level is the lowest one. So for example, first level is a project, the second level is a major part. There are two parts. And the major part has other components. So that will be the third level. So that's the work breakdown structure. We can some of the project managers approach it in such a way that it's about the component. Okay? Other projects will approach the project through phasing. Okay, so it really depends on the project manager's approach. So if you'd like to think, if you have a current project, then you can think whether how you want to approach it. Okay. So this is the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart has, okay, this is what MS project looks like. So some project manager will approach project management through phasing, project initiation, the charter kickoff, what happens during planning, the different numbers of days, the duration, okay, in terms of sequence. So Gantt chart shows the different activities, the duration, the start date, and the finish date. And behind this is a sequence. Okay? And eventually, it shows like a graphical representation of how long it is in terms of bar graph. Not shown here, but it's like that. This is a Gantt chart. And it's something that we can use during kickoff and even during meetings. Okay? This is something that it serves like as a map of the project team. If you want, if you'd like to take a minute, you want to plan your project, then you can really shut down. Okay. Okay. So it's like when we sit together with the team, we identify the task, and then they will check whether I think we need to move this. So they will say we will give the feedback whether we need to remove something or we need to put the task in front of the other, to rearrange the task, to adjust the duration. And um, even though we can already do it during January, but the resource person is not available, then we have to change the date. Okay, it's another constraint. Or if the client is also available during testing, okay, that's another factor that we need to consider, or the availability of the license or the equipment or the tool. It's still if it's still being procured, like there will be instances wherein we need to procure from another country and it has yet to arrive after 2 weeks or a month. We cannot go with the task yet. And any task that is affected by that, then we need to really wait. It's one of the constraints that we need to observe. Right? Okay. Now we go to project failure. For estimation of resources, okay, sometimes we would say that we would be needing only this number of resources. What happens is that it gets translated into cost, of course, plus schedule. We thought that it will only take 3 days, but then we weren't able to identify all the prerequisites. So it's actually 2 weeks before we can do this, but we weren't able to identify the prerequisites. So we need to be uh, mindful also of our questions to the subject matter expert. Because when we ask them, how long will it take for this to happen? They would say 3 days, and it's true. But we need to also ask, do we need anything else before we do this? Oh, yes, we need to do this. We need to make an inspection of the site. We need to conduct a site survey. We need to check whether the power is good. If it's not, if it's not available, or if the power is not enough, they need to provision the correct power, the correct infrastructure first. And they need to, when that happens, it might take another week or two. So it's already a delay on your end. So those are the things that you need to be mindful of. For team and resource management. Okay. One key, um, one important way to really get the team to be motivated and to build a good spirit, in spirit, teamwork is mutual trust and mutual respect. When we treat someone with respect and trust, eventually that person will just give everything that the person can to help. And I've seen this happen again and again. And for resource management, of course, working with the experts, asking them when do you need this, so that as project managers, we do the things that we need. And clear objectives and scope statement. Like the example that I shared earlier, we thought it was just 5 general reports, but weren't able to identify that there were subsidiary reports. And clear objectives, when they are not written in a smart way, time bound and it's specific, okay, it becomes an open-ended type of objective. Now, what happens is that the customer would say, it says in the objectives like this, so it means that you need to cover this. And as a vendor, it's hard to really argue, but because when you look at it, it says so. So, it's part of due diligence to really make good definition of objectives and scope statement, really lock down the requirement. And the defining criteria, start and end date, how many. It's important to really quantify. That's the quality. Pin it down. Lack of project management processes, especially the change management process. Because the change management process should be communicated to the customer even before the project. Next is insufficient planning, okay, and lack of coordination, not being able to identify all the necessary stakeholders. Lack of management support, lack of funds. Okay. When there's lack of funds, there are workaround, it's gonna be difficult. I've seen this happen. It's good that there's a strong relationship. That's why relationship is very, very important. Um, when you have a very good relationship, and make things happen, even when it's impossible. Like we had an instance, we had a project where everyone says it's impossible to finish it on that particular day, but we were able to manage because of their support. Um, a lot of overtime. No, it's not good, but we also work on a lot of areas. We were able to streamline the processes and cut the migration rate by 60%. That was really big, and we were able to deliver on time. Changing business strategy or direction. Okay. There was a project, an organization, and the leader kept on changing the strategy. There are a lot of different leaders coming in and out. So there had been always been a change in direction. So eventually projects would fail. Skills mismatch for the project team. There had been team members who were on board with the team who were not equipped with the right skills. And there are also workaround for that, not upskilling them, but again, time and some lag. Okay. Someone asked how to become a project manager. There are a lot of ways, but there's some. Training education. Okay, when you are trained, when you are educated on how to be a project manager using the tools and knowledge, it's a lot easier to perform the task. Actual project management, it's very important. For coaching and mentoring, it really speeds up the process. Like instead of you going through the pains of project management, you will get all the lessons learned through a mentor who knows it. Through application and the project management role. Being able to apply to a particular project management role, like project analyst, coordinator, project support, project management officer, okay. And eventually you'll become a project manager. So Um, is there anyone here who would like, who's currently not a project manager but wants to be a project manager?